Guess I'll go to the movie. Hopefully they don't sue me. Alright, welcome. It's not movies today though. We're gonna talk about a series. A wonderful series. Beautiful series. One of the best series ever created in my opinion. So, Vikings is a historical drama television series written by Michael Hurst. Excuse me. For the History Channel, which happens to be a Canadian network. Filmed in Ireland, premiered on March 3rd, 2013 in Canada. The series concluded December 30th, 2020, when the second half of the sixth season was released in its entirety on Amazon Prime Video in Ireland, ahead of its broadcast on History in Canada from January 1st to March 3rd, 2021. Blah, 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 blah. A sequel series titled Vikings Valhalla premiered on Netflix on February 25th, 2022. Vikings is inspired by the sagas of Ragnar Lothbrok, a Viking who is one of the best known legendary Norse heroes and notorious as the scourge of the Anglo-Saxon England and West Francia. The show portrays Ragnar as a farmer from the Kattegat who rises to fame by raiding England from the Kattegat, which there's a Kattegat now, but it's like underwater, so I think they're trying to say is like that was it back then. Who rises to fame by raiding England and eventually becoming a Scandinavian king with the support of his family and fellow warriors. In the later seasons, the series follows the fortunes of his sons and their adventures in England, Scandinavia, Kievan Rus, the Mediterranean, and North America. The series is inspired by the tales of the Norsemen of the early medieval Scandinavia. It broadly follows the exploits of the legendary Viking chieftain Ragnar Lothbrok and his crew, descendants, as notably laid down in the 13th century sagas Ragnar's Saga Lodbrokr and Ragnar Sona Pater, as well as Saxo Grammaticus's 12th century work, Gesta the Norm. Norse legendary sagas were partially fictional tales based in the oral tradition, written down about 200 to 400 years after the events they describe. Further inspiration is taken from historical sources of the period, such as records of the Vikings raid on Lindisfarne depicted in the second episode, or Ahmad ibn Fadlan's 10th century account of the Varangians. The series begins at the start of the Viking Age, marked by the Lindisfarne raid in 793. The year 793. So let's see. Season 1. It was fucking dope as fuck, classic. It's slow. It starts off kind of slow, but immediately it's like, whoa. Slow, but immediately it's pretty dope. I think the action doesn't start. I mean, there's a little bit of action in the first one, which is a good way to start it because they do start with action. Literally. Season 2, 10 episodes. 2 new series regulars were announced. Alexander Ludwig, who portrayed the teenage Bjorn. Linus Roach playing King Egbert of Wessex. Because in season 1, they only go to Northumbria. So they don't go to Wessex yet. The second season undergoes a jump in time, aging the young Bjorn, played by Nathan O'Toole, into an older swordsman portrayed by Ludwig. The older Bjorn has not seen his father Ragnar for a long period of time. Lagertha remarries to a powerful Jarl. Stepfather provides harsh guidance to Bjorn. Edvin, Andre, and Anna Ostrom signed up for roles in the second season. Endre had the role of Erlander, one of King Horik's sons. Season 3. Let's see. Season 3. See, now I don't know. I think season 3 was Paris. Season 4 was the Mediterranean. 5 was the Sons of Ragnar, and 6 was also the Sons of Ragnar. Apparently, the nudity and sex scenes are regularly edited out for American audiences. For example, the sex scene between Lagertha and Astrid in the 4th season episode of The Outsider only showed them kissing. The scene continued for airings in other countries and on home video releases. Let's see, what else? So there's funny parts, right? It's like The Boy. It's not. I mean, I don't want to compare it to The Boys, but there's violence, there's hate, there's revenge, there's love. The action is cool. The skilled fighting. There's no superpowers, but you know, all throughout history, there's been people who have been skilled in certain aspects more than other people. And so it sticks. There's a lot of realism, but there's a lot of fantasy, but not fantasy like as in the Dragon one, House of Dragon or whatever this shit. No offense to anybody, but I never watched Game of Thrones. So Vikings was compared to Game of Thrones, but Vikings is more, in my opinion, more because it's actually based on certain historic scenarios, whereas Game of Thrones is all fictional. So, you know, there's no dragons in Vikings. The only dragons are on the heads of the Viking ships. Many characters are based on or inspired by real people from history or legend, and the events portrayed are broadly drawn from history, as I was just saying in my layman terms. The history of more than a century has been condensed. People who could never have met are shown as of similar age, with history amended for dramatic effect. Season 1 leads up to the attack on Lindisfarne Abbey before the real Rollo was born. In season 3, the same characters at roughly the same ages participate in the siege of Paris of 845. So these main events are correct. Like the siege of Paris was in 845, and Lindisfarne was attacked in 793. By this time, Egbert was dead and King Aethelwulf was already on the throne. Rollo was shown having his followers killed and fighting his fellow Vikings, whereas in history they were granted what became Normandy and continued to cooperate with the Norse kinsmen. Little is known about Viking religious practice, and its depiction is largely fictitious. When Catherine Winnick was asked why she licked the seer's hand, she answered, "It wasn't originally in the script, and we just wanted to come up with something unique and different." The showrunner Michael Hurst said, "I especially had to take liberties with Vikings because no one knows for sure what happened in the Dark Ages. We want people to watch it." Now, I didn't know this was the Dark Ages, but I guess because not a lot of people were writing history then. We want people to watch it. As a historical account of the Vikings would reach hundreds, occasionally thousands of people. Here, we've got to reach millions. In the 4th episode of the 2nd season, the Bishop of Wessex is shown inflicting crucifixion as punishment for apostasy, while it had been outlawed more than 4 centuries earlier by Emperor Constantine the Great, and it would have been blasphemous for the Christian population. Interesting. There's also some comic books that came out. There's like 4 or 5 that came out based when they were, I think, season 2, when they were in Wessex, and they did a mission for Egbert. And then there's another set of books. There's like 4 or 5 books that was based in after the siege of Paris, before Ragnar disappears. That one's pretty cool because it's because of that. Because you know how if you've seen that, you know, no spoilers, but that second siege of Paris was unsuccessful against his brother Rollo. And so we don't know why or when he left. Years pass and you see everybody growing up and you're like, where's our father and shit? Or our father's gone and we find out that our people got killed in England and he didn't tell us and blah, blah, blah. It's an amazing show. I've watched it several times. I think it's good for everybody. It shows positive women roles. I mean, it shows negative. It shows like reality, like how some of them are treated, but it also shows like how the Vikings had like Lagertha. They were shield maidens, so the women were encouraged to fight as well in the society, which is pretty badass. All right, Vikings, 5 stars. Check it out, baby. We'll be right back. Let's all go to the movies. Hopefully they don't sue me. All right. I forgot to close.